Hi, Legal Besties. I'm Michaela.
And I'm Allison.
And this season, we will be discussing how to lean into your authenticity and softness and what it's like being a female professional in a heavily male-dominated field. On today's episode, we have an incredible guest back for part 2. Will you please reintroduce yourself for everybody?
Hello, everyone. I'm Darysa Bello.
We are looking forward to continue exploring more about your relationship with the law and the way you are able to make sure that you are able to maintain a healthy work-life balance in the second part of your episodes. So, if you have not had the opportunity to listen to the first part of our interview with Darysa, please make sure you do. She has an incredible wealth of knowledge that we're going to dive a little bit deeper in this episode today. So, in the last episode, you talked a little bit about your strengths of actively listening and your desire to help people during difficult times. And can you tell us a little bit about the strengths that you possess that you feel makes you a strong advocate for children and how you feel empowered to lean into those strengths?
Yes. So I remember when I decided to become an attorney was in high school. And it was because, as I said previously, I wanted to help others during difficult times. And also because I felt that I had that my skills align with the profession. And normally, I feel like when we think about attorney skills, we automatically think, analytical skills and
Mm-hmm.
able to resolve conflicts. But I think my skills were more like I have always been very empathetic, and I feel like I'm a good listener. And I think it is very important for attorneys to listen, because and not only in my field, but any area of the law, and actually any profession, like when you have a client telling you their story, or their problem, it is very important to listen, so you because you don't want to miss anything. Um, so I think those skills help me to actually decide to become an attorney who represents children, like, because you need the skill for to be an attorney in general, but I think it's more necessary if you're representing minors.
For
Absolutely. I think
sure.
I think one thing that you touched on before in the first episode was just how even for just an adult, you have to break things out and make it digestible and like allow them to understand, because we do this day in and day out, but for most people these legal words, it's very confusing. And so for a child, I can only imagine it's very daunting, and especially with the type of work you do when there are child abuse and neglect, it's a traumatic time for them. So you're adding complicated plus trauma, so it's a lot. So I think you hit the nail on the head with what you said, the skills that you have that really translate in working with kids.
Yeah, no, I think that like the law, like being attorney, you have to um have good communication skills, but it's more like it's not necessarily. It is important, of course, that you know the law, but it's also very important how do you communicate the law, how do you communicate what you know, in a simple way, because when you talk in legal terms, like it's very confusing, like, so you have to do it in a way that you gonna make sure that your client understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and kind of just thinking about the way that you are able to actively listen and the way that you are able to apply empathy to what you do and who you represent. Have you ever felt like others in this profession underestimated you because of your empathy?
Um well, I feel like one of the things that I heard at the beginning, when I said at the beginning, is when I decided to become an attorney. Even though I felt that I have the skills necessary to become an attorney, there were a lot of people that will tell me, you're too nice. And when I
Mhm.
like too nice, because I don't know, I feel like some people, I don't want to say everyone,
Mhm.
this is not the case, but some people feels that in order to be an attorney, you have to be either yelling all the time or rude
Mhm. Aggressive.
or aggressive. And I'm
Mhm.
like, no, you can make your point, you can make your case, you can advocate for your client, you can win a case, and you don't have to yell or be rude. And I did feel that some people felt that I didn't have the personality to be an attorney because, yeah, I was being called being too nice.
I've
um
heard that one.
Same.
Plenty of times. I think it's great when we like can have open discussions about this because those shared experiences, like we've all been there, and it's exhausting and it sucks that we continue to have to hear that rhetoric used about, especially when you're that's something that you can really truly lean into. Like Michaela knows this, like I'm super friendly with defense counsel and I lean into that. I honestly think you can get a lot more sometimes being nice, and especially like in your line of work, it's almost required. Like you need your clients to open up to you, and imagine if you came in guns blazing, like tell me exactly what happened, tell me what you want. Like it just would not be productive. So
No,
definitely.
yeah, no, I agree 100%, especially with children. But I feel like even if you're like in your case, Allison and Michaela, that even in your case, like you don't have to be rude or be like or yelling or screaming in order to advocate for your clients. It's just, but yeah, like they have said before, like I feel like you're too nice, you should consider another profession, and I'm like, no, no.
Thanks.
The more I'm supposed to be. I think that's part of what we want this season of our podcast to really talk about is not losing that softness. Because I think sometimes when um, you're told that so many times, or like you'll be taken more seriously if you this, or don't have to be nice. Like you don't have to act like you guys are friends. And it's like it's not acting. It's just how I want to represent in the world, how I want to always show up is what feels authentic to me and who I am to my core, because I think there's so much respect in that. And I don't base the way I treat people based off of how they're treating me. Like I can demand respect in many ways without having to assert dominance or trying to be aggressive. Like that can mean something different for all of us. And I think by having these kinds of open discussions of like, actually, I think that my kindness is a strength. I treat people like they're human beings because they are. And like at the end of the day, this is our job, right? And we want to be the best advocate possible for our client. And the other side is trying to be the best advocate possible for theirs. And so it's like if we can have that understanding and just have this kind of open discourse and treat people with respect, I think that would go a long way and should be more baseline.
Yeah. Well, and especially with you, Teresa, I mean, you kind of told us that you work with your community of attorneys that you're working with. It's like you see each other very frequently. And I don't really have that experience. I run into a couple of people every now and then, but like it sounds like the group of attorneys that you're on cases with and against, I guess, like you're seeing these people over and over. So I'm curious how that experience has been. Do they maybe underestimate you in the beginning, but now that they've been working with you for, over 7 years, has it changed a little bit?
um I have to say that I have been very fortunate in which since day one, because we're pretty much, as you say, in these type of cases, I work pretty much with the group same of attorneys. Um, they since day one, and we're working, even though everybody has like kind of like different roles and they represent, the state, the parents. At the end of the day, we all want what is best for the child. We might disagree on things, of course, but I have been very fortunate that I work with an amazing group of attorneys. I feel like I have that experience of what it was more when I said that I wanted to become an attorney, in which some people will tell me you're too nice, and including family members. And I say family members because they didn't, it was not in a mean way. It's
Right.
just not at all. It was just that they thought that in order to be an attorney, you have to have more like a, I don't know if strong is the correct word, but like a, yeah, like a strong personality, or like a
Mhm.
strong character, or be more like,
Like
I
the
don't
TV lawyer.
I was gonna say what you see on TV.
know.
Yep.
Even family members that love me and want what is best for me will tell me,
Hmm.
"Do you really want to be an attorney? Like, you're very nice, you're kind, you're kind of like, you're soft." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And at the beginning, at some point, it got to a point that it bothered me. I'm like, "What do you mean I'm too nice?"
Yeah. And
So
then you start second guessing yourself. You're like, am I too nice? Oh my God. Maybe I am.
yes, so and so I'm saying this because it's coming from people that love me, that cares about me. It's just, having, thinking that, I don't know, in order to be a lawyer, or in order to be a therapist, or in order to be a social worker, you need to have certain personality. And
Yeah.
I don't think that's right. You always gonna have some skills that you can, apply to your job.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and I think it's like I think sometimes those comments do come from a place of love, where it's like, I'm looking out for you. I just feel like, it might be too heavy, or it might be too hard to do every day, or I have this mold in my head that I feel like a person in this profession should fit. And I think sometimes it's like, well, like while we can understand where someone is coming from, it's also like I think sometimes we take on those words more than we realize we are,
Hmm.
and it's almost like you don't want that to become your narrative in your head because you've been heard it like you've heard it so many times. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes it's like I like to just step back and be like, why am I an advocate? Why did I want to be an attorney? It's because I want to help people. Like I want to give a voice to people. I want to, be the kind of advocate I would want if I was in that situation. And if I look at what that kind of advocate looks like, it's like what I know, like Allison is an attorney, and what I've experienced and heard of the kind of attorney you are, Darysa, is just like from leading from that place of empathy and understanding and wanting to advocate and uplift that person's voice. And I think that that's powerful and so amazing.
And I think it also is amazing because now, like for example, for younger generations that are interacting with you, your very own clients, like to see, oh, like an attorney can look like this, or like an attorney, it's not just this cookie cutter image that we have from the media or for whatever it may be. Like being exposed to different types of attorneys and being able to see like yourself represented, like you're, maybe you can touch on it a little bit, but you're from Puerto Rico, and I think it's so powerful, especially like I'm a first gen attorney, and like seeing other female attorneys that are Latinas that have gone and gotten their law degree, it's so inspiring, and I'm sure that your clients see that too.
Thank you. So yes, so I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. I studied law school in Puerto Rico. So I studied the whole career in Spanish. But then I knew that I wanted to like have an experience outside of Puerto Rico, and that's when I decided to apply for a clerkship. And I came here to New Jersey, and it was a great experience. So I try to use my experience also for with my teenagers clients, in which try to tell them like that if you work hard, like you can accomplish what you want. And try to tell them that it's always going to be scary. I do remember after accepting the clerkship, I always tell the story, but even though I knew English, like I understand and everything, with if you don't practice a language, you forget. I never born and raised in Puerto Rico. I never had to, speak English. And then I remember opening the door of the courthouse, and I was like, what I'm doing here? What if they say something and I don't understand? I'm like, blah blah blah. Like it was scary, but it was a year that not only I was able to learn a lot from being able to sit in the courtroom and learn from experienced attorneys, um, being able to be exposed to different type of cases, domestic violence cases, divorce, custody cases, the type of cases that I'm doing now that is called children in court, juvenile cases, and also improve my English. So it was definitely a great experience, and I try to share my story with the my Latinos clients, so they know, and they feel like, when I have we have a lot of Latinos clients, and yeah, it's when I tell them my story, they feel more connected.
Yeah, and I'm sure they see like, oh my gosh, like if she can do it, I can do it. And I
Yes,
think that can be very inspiring because when you do see more representation and or like maybe even doesn't even necessarily have to be that they're Latino, but like, maybe someone identifies with the way that you project yourself, like maybe they're a little bit more kind and or what all the traits that we just talked about earlier. So I think it's great to be able to see that representation and like show other people like not every attorney is going to look like ex attorney that we see on TV all the time.
for sure.
Your resilience is truly incredible, too. Because, like, learning the law, going to law school, passing the bar, practicing law is already such an incredibly difficult journey. But to also be navigating a whole new terrain, a whole new language, all of the things on top of it, like, you really fought to be where you are today. And I think that it's really inspiring, too, I'm sure, for your clients, because you can come from this place of understanding, like a deeper level of understanding. You're not just like, yeah, I'm sure that is hard. It's like, no, I know this is hard. I too had to walk into a courtroom not knowing what to expect. Like, I know what that feeling is, and I don't want you to have to experience that. And like, I can see that in the way that like you will draw out, what the courtroom looks like you knew what that was like, and you don't want others to feel that way. And like, that's where change can be effectuated. So just thank you for the work that you're doing.
Oh, so nice to hear. Thank you, guys.
One thing I did want to make sure we touched on was so we've been talking a lot about how the types of cases that you're looking at can include really heavy topics like abuse, neglect, and coming from parents. So, even heavier because you're dealing with the children that are the victims of this. And so, can you tell us a little bit about how you have managed to I don't know if the right term is work life balance, but like how do you deal with the weight and the heaviness of these topics and make sure that you're still taking care of yourself?
um so I feel like for me, yes, the type of work I do is very emotional, so it is very difficult. I mean, it's gonna affect you because, as I say, you're dealing with children, so it's way more difficult. For me, is working out. For me, exercise is therapy. Like, I love going to the gym and working out, because I feel like I'm doing something for myself, and that is a time which I can just listen to the music I love or to a podcast, and yes, I just love to work out, and I feel that's my way of relieving stress. And of course, there are going to be some days that I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym. But I always think about how I feel after working out. And when I think about that feeling, I go. I always go. Because I always feel better after I work out. After you move your body, you're gonna feel better. Um,
Mhm.
Another thing that I started doing, I'm doing therapy. I started a couple of months ago, and I will recommend therapy for anyone. I think it's great. I don't think you need to weigh, like, I know it's changing, but some people still might think that you go to therapy because maybe you experience some trauma, or because you're dealing with a specific situation at the moment. I feel that no matter if everything is going in your life the way that you want, I still will recommend therapy. I think it is great. Um, and and I also feel that with my client that I have experienced a lot of trauma. A lot of teenagers client, they don't want to do therapy because they find it that it's a waste of time, or they don't quite understand what therapy is. You have a minor that has shared their story with so many people, caseworkers, their lawyers, um, and they feel that, okay, now I have to talk to a therapist. It's just like another person that. But when I share with them, look, I am doing therapy, and I recommend therapy because of this, this, and this. They're like, "You're doing therapy," and then they give it a try. Yes, those are the things that work for me. I know that
Mhm.
everybody's different, and I think you should find what works for you. Like, for example, I have a friend that she enjoys cooking, and she feels like when she's stressed, she cooks. If I'm stressed and you ask me to cook, I will get, you know, please don't ask me that.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is you have to find what works for you.
I think that's so important. Like, there really truly is not a cookie cutter way of setting these boundaries in your life, or knowing, like, okay, I'm sensing I'm feeling overwhelmed. Like, what can I do to recenter myself?
Mhm.
I think knowing and keeping in mind that, like, we are a work in progress, and like we're gonna ebb and flow, and sometimes our needs are gonna change, and sometimes, like, people love journaling. Sometimes it's really cathartic to just write it out, but that not might not be what works for you. And so kind of giving yourself that patience and that grace of just like, I know that this works for other people, maybe I'll try it out, and if it's not working for me, I don't have to get mad at myself of like, why isn't this working? It's like,
Mhm.
okay, let's just find another avenue. But I think sometimes it can be disheartening if you're like, I mean, I think sometimes too, just like in this day and age with social media and the glamorization of self care and things, it can get kind of convoluted of like what self care means individually. Just because it works for someone else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So I think that's awesome too, that like you have taken the time to know like what you need.
And that it helps with your clients too, because like I
Mm,
think there's nothing more powerful than if you can yourself say like I'm doing therapy and it's great for me, like that might inspire someone where it's like not as taboo. Because I think depending on cultures, there's still cultures where it's still very taboo to do therapy, and there's comments made among family members, and it's nice when it's normalized. Like this is pretty normal now. Like therapies.
Therapy is
Everyone does
great.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, strongly believe that everyone should go to therapy.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I think it's amazing, and I'll definitely recommend it.
It honestly just like learning about first just learning about what you do for a living was just fascinating. I truly like I want to know more. I want to come see you in court.
Same.
But also just like hearing how you are a voice for children and you help them in so many ways has just been really great to hear. And then just how you lean into the traits that make you uniquely you, like that's at the core of what have been trying to accomplish with this season. And we just can't thank you enough for taking the time to be on our podcast, and we hope to have you back on someday. um, but yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. I enjoyed the conversation, and yeah, I hope you guys invite me again.
Oh yeah, no, and we're already planning our trip to the East Coast.
Oh
So
yeah,
thank you.
flights will be booked. Thank you so much for tuning into Ladies in Law. You can catch us anywhere that you watch or listen to your podcasts. And Darisa, if anyone wants to reach out to you about questions, law school, your career, where can they reach you?
Well, they can on Instagram, and it's my first and last name, Darysa Bello.
Perfect. Thank you so much
Amazing.
again.